Do you think travel has to break the bank? Well, think again. I've got my top 5 tips that will save you big time on your next trip. Whether you're headed to Europe or somewhere further afield, let's dive in and get you booking smarter. Before we get into the top 5, here's a freebie. Get yourself a notebook. Trust me, every time I do this, I learn something new, and you may want to write down some of the things that I'm coming up with today. But it's always worth writing things down so you don't forget them. You will thank yourself, or maybe even me. First up is Google Flights. This tool is my go-to for the cheapest possible travel dates and flights. You start by entering your destination, but here's the trick: keep your dates flexible, if you can. Google Flights lets you scan an entire month so you can see which dates have the lowest prices. It also has the option to select multiple origin airports. I tend to find London's the cheapest for the UK, and seeing as I don't live near any major airport, it's just a couple of hours or more further to drive. But once I've found the cheap date, I set up a price alert so I'm notified of any drops. Generally for Europe and short haul, around 12 weeks in advance is the sweet spot. For long haul flights with British Airways, flights release at 355 days in advance, and they often drop them quite cheap. For the best deals, while some budget Chinese airlines drop their months about 4 months out. Classic example of this is Tokyo. You will get some really cheap deals about 3 to 4 months in advance, changing in Peking or Shanghai. Whereas the long haul major operators like British Airways, their prices tend to be fairly static all year round, but they do drop when they first come onto the market, which for BA is 355 days in advance. Now I hope you're writing all this down, because hack 4 is where this trick really pays off. Right, let's talk about airports. One way to save on flights is by using alternative airports. From the UK, I often find that flying from London airports like Gatwick, Stansted or Luton offers more options and often cheaper fares compared to regional airports. London has a wider selection and frequency of flights, so it's worth considering if you can actually travel there. For example, I don't live anywhere near an airport. So it's 2 hours to get to Manchester, 3 hours to get to Birmingham. It's only 5 hours to get to Luton. On a recent trip I've just booked to Krakow, we have saved £450 by doing this, which means I've managed to go to Krakow, family of 3, just under £300. Boom, it's worth doing. But here's another example. When I went to Toronto, I flew into Hamilton instead of Toronto Pearson. Not only did it save a good amount on my ticket, but Hamilton's airport also had the added perk of shorter security and passport control queues. It's small, quick and save time as well as money. And because it's semi-rural, you hop in your hire car and you're straight out. Boom. And for those feeling adventurous, there's something called hidden city ticketing. This is where if you fancied going to Singapore, for example, you might find that the flight to Malaysia with a layover in Singapore is considerably cheaper. There's lower airport taxes in Malaysia than Singapore, so you can just get off the plane in Singapore and not bother with the leg to Malaysia. Now there's some complications with this. Obviously you've got to book them as one-way tickets, because they'll penalise you if they've worked out what you're up to, and they may cancel your return leg. And the other thing is, you don't want to have hold baggage. The last thing you want is your bag in Kuala Lumpur and you in Singapore. Thus ends my TED talk on airport choices. If you've still got that notebook, you might want to jot down Play Airlines, flyplay.com. Really enjoyed flying with them to Toronto, and looking at some of the other destinations they've got. They've got Stewart Airport, which is just outside New York, and I was just seeing someone say earlier that it takes less time to get from Stewart to the centre of New York than it does from JFK. Again, because it's a small airport, short security queues, straight in. You must think I'm mad suggesting airport lounges as part of a budget travel video, but hear me out. The last time I was at Heathrow, we found the cheapest restaurant, had a burger style meal and a pint, and it came to nearly 50 quid for the two of us. That's 25 quid each. Trust me, when you're travelling with kids, that's always going to happen. But for my last couple of trips, I've been using them. So I've got a Barclays travel pack, and with that I get access to the Dragon Pass. I'm sure you might have heard of that if you travel frequently. And it gives me 6 free lounge visits a year. Each lounge visit would normally cost you about £40. meaning I'm saving $240 annually just on that. These aren't just any lounges, they're stocked with free meals, free bar. In some of them, the soft drinks are actually cans, which you can take, put in your bag, take them on the plane so you don't get hosed on the plane either. It's starting to sound like a winner. As you know, you're allowed to take an empty water bottle on the plane. You can fill it up in the lounge with that nice cucumber, lemon, Ponzi water stuff. So instead of spending £20 or more on overpriced airport food, I'm dining in comfort and style without any extra costs. But it doesn't just stop there. The pack also includes comprehensive travel insurance for the whole family, covering medical expenses, trip cancellations and lost luggage. Typically a standalone insurance policy like this would cost £100 a year, so that's another big chunk of change saved. Then there's the RAC breakdown cover for the car, and this one covers the family with unlimited call-outs. This would normally cost you about $240 a year. If brought separately with all these benefits, I reckon I'm saving $580 annually and it only cost me £18 a month. Boom. The airport lounge is actually a money-saving idea. The other thing you get with the Dragon Pass is once you've used all your free ones, now bear in mind if you're a family of 4, you're going to use them in a holiday and a half, you get a discount of only paying £20 for an airport lounge visit, which that's good value as well. And it gives you 15% off a lot of the concessions in the airports, like, you know, the major food ones like Giraffe and all them. Here's a tip to jot down in that notebook again. Research travel packs that fit your needs. Barclays isn't the only one that offers them, some travel insurance companies offer them, so it's worth checking out if your bank or some other service provides one, but only if you're holidaying more than a couple of times a year. Do you remember in the first hack where I suggested keeping notes? Well, this is where it pays off, because you already know what your cheap flight dates are, so why not turn it into a package by using a booking agent. My preferred one for my recent trips has been Expedia, but Skyscanner, Booking.com, they're all out there. Even the big travel companies like TUI, especially if Google Flights has recommended a TUI flight. But the other thing of bundling it into a package is you end up with either ABTA or ATOL cover, which gives you much more coverage, and because you're booking the entire lot for a single third party, they are liable for your whole package. For example, if the flight's cancelled, it's down to them that you've also got a hotel booked. They'll argue, but you will usually get your money back. So it's giving you extra peace of mind. On top of, I always try to pay with a credit card because you can take it up with them as well. Saying that, everyone worries about travel problems. I've never had any yet, touch wood. I think the worst I had was a 2 hour 47-minute flight delay, 13 more minutes and I'd have had compensation. But another big perk of using a package is you often get a baggage allowance, which you don't get on the base Google Flights fare when you go direct to the airline. Now, this may happen because they've saved a couple of quid on the hotel or whatever, but not so critical when you're only going for a short break. But when you're going long haul, it's nice to take a suitcase. And sometimes it doesn't save you any money, but you're still getting a worry-free trip and possibly some clothes to wear when you get there because you've got a suitcase. So put this in your notebook and smoke it. Using a booking agent is an easy way to secure your whole trip. You're usually only dealing with one person, and it turns it into a safer, smarter and often cheaper choice. Bingo! Let's talk about getting around. One of the most overlooked aspects of booking a trip is underestimating local transportation costs. Imagine arriving at your destination and finding out the transfer from the airport to the city costs more than the bloody trip itself. Planning for this upfront can make a huge difference, especially for budget travellers. Knowing your options, whether it's public transport, the dreaded Uber, shuttles, whatever. Quick tip, sometimes your hotel can pre-arrange a shuttle for you at a very favourable rate. But let's avoid those last minute surprises. Now for me, I really use Google Maps for this. It's amazing how many of the local transport options actually come up in Google Maps. Sometimes they're not always accurate, however, it tells you where to start looking. But this is also where transport passes come in. Many cities offer day or week passes that give you unlimited travel on buses, metros and trams, making it super affordable to explore without worrying about extra costs. For example, the Barrett card in Bilbao, the Oyster card in London, the Navigo in Paris, they're easy budget-friendly solutions. Plus many cities now also have apps that give real-time schedules and routes, so does Google Maps. So you can navigate easily even in an unfamiliar place. With these passes and apps you can keep your transport budget low and still get everywhere you want to go. So if you're still jotting down notes, add this one. check for local transportation passes when you plan your holiday. It really will make a difference. It allows you to get around easier and actually see more. Why go on the metro when you can go on the double-decker bus? You'll see more from it because all you're going to see in the metro is a tunnel. And with these top 5 travel hacks, you're all set to make your next trip as budget friendly as possible. Now for anyone heading to Bilbao, here's something you'll want to know about: the Barrick card. It's an awesome travel pass that made getting around Bilbao a doddle for me. It's so much easier and cheaper. Just click here to check out my guide and see how this simple card can help you explore Bilbao while saving even more. Thanks ever so much for watching. Love it if you liked and subscribed, set up notifications, and we'll see you soon, wherever we may be.